broadcast on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are
You are back. Where from, you might ask? Back with Shiny Side Out in the second hour. And this is, we're on Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button and subscribe to the archives for free. Do it for free. You can download our shows. Solaris' shows. She had Miss B on today, and that was a great show. I'm going to listen to it after this. I'm going to download it myself. It's in MP3 format, so it's really easy, and I can put it on and maybe cook dinner, because it's what time? 5 p.m. here on a Sunday. It isn't 5 p.m. on a Sunday where you are, and if you're watching this or listening to this in the future on YouTube or Rumble or wherever you find it, it won't be 5 p.m. Sunday for you on the 24th of August. Trust me, if it is, message me, because that would be really interesting to see that. Get yourself some great merchandise from the station's website. That's revolution.radio. You can get a t-shirt, a mug, or anything you like. Whatever there is for you that you like. Remember, if you like what we say, do support the station. If we make you think, support the station. You can also support us. We have we've got ways of being able to support us. Just go to shinysideout.net and you pick your method of support for us. We're halfway through, believe it or not, show 702. 702. Still shocks me that we've done so many shows. And we're talking about, let me just bring that up. We're talking about the hypothesis, and this is part 3. Part 3 in the series. And can't believe we've read almost nothing of the show notes. And there's 99 pages of show notes for this. And I'm just going to put this in called show 702, because that's where I'm starting this text from. Oh, no, it is. It's already there. It's already there. What am I doing? Show 702. Now, it's not ABC 702, which is a radio station here in the Sydney area, but it is what it is. Now, we've been talking about the current topic is... Oh, and by the way, this part of the text was written 14 years ago on August 10th. This is August 10th, 2025, when Meckie's reread it, talking about Down the Rabbit Hole. And I'll continue with the text so that you understand, you get a perspective on what it means. So we're going to thank you very much also because you're listening to us, to continue to listen. And now I want to get on with the text. The existence of a cabal of hidden manipulators is a further pillar. They direct humanity, closing doors of inquiry and pushing an edited version of reality that serves their purpose. Who are they? Excellent question. I don't know. But I know them by their works and interferences. More pillars will be discussed as we come to them. Over the past 699 odd shows, that's in our Shiny Side Out catalogue, we have addressed quite a number of seemingly divergent subjects. This show is designed to draw these subjects together and show potential links and common threads. And as we said last week, our shock was that things are connected, seemingly distant things that had no connection whatsoever actually had a connection. And I'll read through these things we've discussed with you guys so far. Ancient high civilizations, ancient technology, gold, specifically orbitally rearranged monatomic elements, or ORMs, you might know them, ORMES, immortality and extreme longevity, UFOs, dating. Now, I'm not talking about Tinder or whatever else there is out there, Match.com. No, this is about the way that we date things that have been dug up or fossilized, or are sitting within layers of soil. So dating in geology may be relative or absolute. Relative is that it happens to be lying undisturbed in a layer of, soil. But where there's lots of layers, it's in one of those layers only, and nothing above it was disturbed, so it didn't wash into a hole or whatever, right? Or absolute, whereas you can determine the age of the thing it is by carbon dating it, for instance. But relative dating is done by observing fossils, as described above, and recording which fossil is younger, which is older. The discovery of means for absolute dating in the early 1900s was a huge advance. The methods are all based on radioactive decay. And now I talk about another topic, Yeti, the Alma, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, etc. And that's got a full stop at the end. I'm a stickler for grammar. Cryptozoology, big cats, for instance, and dogs. If you don't know, there's a Black Panther mystery here. We've also had missing link predators in Australia. So they thought the Black Panther might have escaped from someone's private collection, but it's been seen around. We've also got the thylacine, one of the predators in Australia. Anyway, so cryptozoology is a branch where it's not agreed upon in lockstep regular zoology, if that makes any sense. Dimensional shift phenomena, even talking about the Voynich manuscript, the Abydos Temple, and the man from Taured. Those things have all come to mind, and I'm remembering AJ with Hecklefish talking about the man from Taured. They don't touch the Abydos Temple at all. So, and the Voynich manuscript, they haven't talked about that yet. Moon mysteries is another topic. Why is the moon so perfectly sized to just create an eclipse? It could be complete coincidence, but it's 400 times smaller, but also the sun is 400 times further away, so they appear to be the same size. Isn't that crazy? Did you know that you can put every planet in the solar system between the Earth and the moon? It's so far away that all of their diameters are still short, even with Pluto there in the list. Isn't that nuts? I just think it's crazy. It's crazy. You're thinking about Saturn and Jupiter as well, how vastly huge they are, and yet between us and the moon there's all that space. Just fascinating. Potential NASA cover-ups. Potential. That's funny. That's a funny word to put in there. Should just be NASA cover-ups. Did you go to the moon? Yeah, we did. How come you've never been back? Oh, it was money. Was it? Oh, no, we lost the technology. Well, how did you lose the technology? Oh, we said we burned all the tapes and we've forgotten how to do it. But you did it before. Oh, I can't do it again. And then besides, there's that Van Allen belt problem. What Van Allen belt? Oh, humans can't go through it. But didn't we send humans through it? Yeah, sure we did. Sure we did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, see? Oh, we just... who could be bothered going back there again, Oh, let's go to Mars instead. Yeah, that's great. And Buzz Aldrin says, let's go back to Mars. And also there was a general that said it as well. Let's go back to Mars. I want us to go back to Mars. So did they go to Mars? When did we put humans on Mars? When did we go there with humans? I don't know. Maybe he was part of the jump room program and just forgot. No, you're not allowed to say that. What about vanished people? Or people that have dimensional shifts. So suddenly they're not doing that job they used to do. Or suddenly they can now talk a different language. Or with an accent. Who knows? Who knows what any of this does? There was even I think it was Whitley Strieber's wife. She the bathroom was very small. It was at a shopping center, like a mall, and they went into the bathroom. It's small, and there was only like one toilet, I think, or something there, and the door was closed to that one toilet, so they waited. And they waited outside of the toilet. There was no one else in there. They went in, discovered if someone's already busy. So they stayed outside talking, her and a friend. And then they decided to go in. I think this is a story. She decided to go in. But, that's right. When the person came out, that's right. The person came out that was using the toilet came out of the bathroom itself. Then Whitley Strieber's wife went into it and then was pushed out of the way by someone who seemed completely disorientated, who left without interacting with them. And there's not room for two people. And they were both, they both couldn't have been in that same cubicle. The cubicle wasn't big. So there's some fascinating stories there. The next one is 9/11 false flags, 9/11 and false flag operations in the past. We question whether 9/11 was a false flag to go into Iraq, but we don't know. It seemed like an awful lot of effort to go into Iraq. Surely he could have just done anything else, but so be it. What about deja vu? Deja vu is always associated with the weird feeling that you have. I think that's something certainly to research and look into. If it were me, and it is, so we did. And medically, they were able to cause deja vu and stop deja vu in some secret lab testings and chemicals. But we don't know what the chemicals were. And yet, here we are. Have they introduced those chemicals into our food source or water sources so that we don't see the future? We don't know what's going on. And we can't see the magic the person behind the curtain, so to speak. Ghosts, that's another one. Is the what's called the supernatural? Is it just the natural? Is it the thing that happens? Have you ever seen a cat just staring at the wall or interacting with something that isn't there? Dogs barking at a wall, for instance. Footage that shows like a shadow of someone walking around. My favourite one of the ghosts is two stories. One is a personal experience that I've had with a number of ghosts, actually. But another one is the security footage of the security officer inside the building, talking to someone that he could see that was meant to be there, the video cameras did not pick it up at all. He has a conversation, and then after the conversation is determined that the person is interested in seeing a particular person in the building, and then calls it through, and the person at the other end, maybe the shift leader or the person on the video security, says, "Who are you talking to?" "Oh, the person right in front of me." "There's no one there," they say. And then the guy freaks out because that person who they're looking for, has been dead for, or whoever it is, who they say they are, died, at work, whatever the story is. It's fantastic. My one, though, however, is that I was alone at work in a building that's highly secure, and you need pass to go in. The logs proved no one was there later afterwards, and the alarm had gone off, and I went there, and there was nothing at all. No people, no cars, no nothing at all. The lightning used to set off an indicator, and I had to go up and check anyway, just in case. But the whole building was secure, and like I said, the access logs didn't show anyone having entered over the whole weekend, and the video footage showed nothing. Couldn't see anything. But I walked through an upstairs storage area that was only via forklift, and it used to be a factory for a hair product company, and then the place I was working at refitted it for their want. And anyway, so I'm walking through, and it's pitch black, and there's only the exit lighting that is illuminating anything at all, because you don't need much more than that, to be honest. Don't need torches or anything, and once your eyes are adjusted to the nighttime, you can see just fine with the exit lighting, right? And then I heard these footsteps, which sounded like they were footsteps with a hard leather sole, not a rubber like sneakers. These were hard-soled, like boots or shoes, like kind of dress shoes, you know what I mean, on concrete. And I was like, wow, there's definitely someone there. But why would they be walking about making a fuss or making noise if I've said who's there and they didn't stop? I later found out there was a guy that had passed away, had a heart attack on the factory floor during work. And it's quite possible that the stories had arisen only after his death. People started to hear these footsteps, and because he was a factory shift guy, so he'd be on all hours and doing his rounds, and so it's like a convergence of time periods where time is irrelevant, and it's just there. It is what it is, Anyway, so I had to put that out there. The mind-body problem, where the scientists have discovered that the mind is our brains, is quantum connected in some way. There was a story recently that there was a child who had autism but was able to psychically communicate with its parent, like they were quantum connected, like if you say quantum entangled, and they're able to read each other's minds. That's something else. So the mind body problem is, how does the mind, what is it? How is it established? Can we recreate them? Can we even understand how it even works? No, not really, but we kind of do. We're getting closer and closer. Reincarnation, that's another beauty, where we've gone through that and looked at the stories. Even the person who was going to research them in the history of reincarnation was looking to debunk the whole thing, but only then ended up uncovering information which made them believe that it was a thing, because it seems like it is. Eastern societies, these civilizations, believe it already. The Western didn't have a stance of believing it at all. Never a thing. Oh no, can't be real. The East, oh yeah, totally. It's a thing. Happens. So we're kind of already at a point where it's got to be real. There was a young kid, and I think in all of the valid, unbiased reporting on reincarnation, it leaves the mind of the child in roundabout between 4 and 5 years of age. But before then, they can, in some cases, remember their past life entirely like it was yesterday. There was one kid in the US. There's a couple of really good examples. There's one in the UK that's just tremendous, and there's one in the US. In the US, there is a story about a boy, who when asked what his name was, he said his prior name from his last life, and his rank and serial number, name, rank, and serial number. He could also recall his airplane type, the nickname for the airplane, his co-pilot or bomber, his name, his partner in the air, for that matter, what aircraft carrier they flew off from, the mission name, what their duty during that mission was to be. He could recall all of it, plus the way that they died, like what happened during the mission, and what did they confront, and how were they taking them down. So he could remember all that. Now, when the researchers were trying to find the detail on it, they had to go and unearth information that hadn't been unsealed. So sealed information within the government. And no one could have ever have known any of it in one whole piece. But this kid knew it all. So I think that's an extraordinary case that, for me, is an unwavering truth. The parents couldn't even have had looked it up. There wasn't anywhere to look it up. This information didn't exist in one place, and it wasn't actively available through the internet, or you had to go to the military for them to get boxes to be able to research and join the name, rank, and serial number, the mission, the aircraft carrier, all the information. None of it was available. None. So, and he knew it all. I think that's remarkable, to be honest. And in the other one, there was a girl who, in a past life, was a boy, I think. That's the way the story goes. And they're driving home from some place they'd been for the weekend, and they're going through a town they didn't normally drive through, but the young girl said, can I show you where I used to live? And they go, what do you mean? Oh, before this time around. And they go, yeah, sure. Let's play this game. And so, turn left, turn right, want to straight up here, second left, and they stopped at his house. They kind of backed onto these railway tracks, right? That was in the back, past the fence in the backyard. These railway tracks, and there was a train. It's now, I think, inoperative or whatever, right? Because they decommissioned trains. So they said that the dog was on the railway tracks. The train was coming. They ran, but kind of slipped awkwardly and got their foot stuck in between the ballast, which is the large rocky bit, the rocks that are piled up, and the railway line itself and the sleepers. They got their foot stuck in there and couldn't remove it, and then was unalived by the train coming through. Gave the name of their family name and their name. Gave it all, right? This is a kid. So the next thing is the parents were so intrigued, they went to look for this information. The only records were in the census and the local church. They weren't even from that area. And it all turned out to be true. The house was owned by that family name. There was on the census shown a child who was of a certain age, the same age as the child said they were, and on the next census there was no child in the family of that age anymore, or the subsequent age or the equivalent age they would have reached at the next census. They weren't there. Then they discovered the article in the newspaper or what have you, whatever it was, where there was a child was unalived by a train, blah blah blah. It all turned out to be completely true. So what do you think, having heard those stories, and if you take them at face value, not, I've described them as best I can, but you need to have a look into it and do your research too. Let me know. Let me know below what you think. Type it in, do comment, like, subscribe, and share our work. Because putting these stories together, these came from two separate places. We've interviewed a guy that was researching in reincarnation and said that he didn't believe it at all. And then as the evidence started to mount, one incidence you could kind of dismiss. These two special ones that I'm talking about they seem to me to be unequivocal fact. It is really a thing. My mother had the ability to put someone under and record the session and then talk you up into the clouds and to come down into your last life. She was trained by a person who used to attend the UN and give speeches at the UN. We had fantastic connections between people around the world in our family, and this person said, well, this is how you do it. Trained my mother, don't lead the witness, don't say, so what color is the sky? You say, what do you see around you? And if you don't lead the witness, then happy days, you can use that. My father was an ex-policeman, so what you can and can't ask someone, the way you ask it is very important. You're not trying to trigger someone's imagination into you're not trying to lead them into an imaginative state, right? If you do it very clinically and only ask them what they see or what are they doing now, where are they, then, and you ask them what they think, then they're the kind of things you can do. So my mother recorded a session with me, and I'd apparently was, I think, 19, 18 or something. I was about 20 or something like that. I can't remember the whole thing now. It was 40 years ago. But I'd had the blueprints of some kind of gun or something. And there were hedgerows. And it was early days in motor vehicles, and I happened to have one. And I lived in a nice place, a multi-story place on acreage. And I had an appointment to drive somewhere with my rolled up blueprints or my designs or what have you, to take them somewhere for them to be approved or seen to. And it would make sense of the era, but it was a Vauxhall, I think a 1918 Vauxhall that I was driving that I could identify in a lineup. I went to the library and I could immediately see the car, and I knew which one it was by the shape of the car and the grille and everything and the wheels. I just knew it. Out of the lineup of vehicles for that year, what was prior available from 1910 through to 1930, I look at all the cars and go, that's the one I was driving. It's that one right there. I know it. And I was driving down a road this is in my experience. Of course, you could call it imagination. I don't really care. It seemed as real as it was for me to recall it. And I had a head-on with someone who I would once again say had run into me in the narrow hedgerows. I gave them enough width to be able to get past, but they failed to do that and collided with me. and it wouldn't have been very much of an incident. However, the seatbelts weren't mandatory, and I had my foot trap. My foot was trapped in the wreckage, and I was deceased. So, when I was born, the weird part was I had to have my foot held, the same foot. I didn't know this until I'd come to, and my mother told me, "You said that you hurt your right foot. You know," she said, "when you were born, you had to have your right foot held or you wouldn't go to sleep." And I was like, "What? That's a really bizarre connection, but sure, why not?" So I'm a firm believer that reincarnation is a thing, but I'm also a believer of ESP and remote viewing. I really am. Montauk, they did remote viewing and also remote unaliving. I'll just use that term. That extrasensory perception is just perception, not extrasensory. And I don't think it's scientifically as testable as the people who claim to have ESP would like it to be, because when you're scrutinized, you're kind of put into an emotional state where it doesn't work. That's the best way of putting it. Say the people with it. And that the hard part is reproducing it again. I think the calm state of everybody goes back a long time, in where, let's say we were hunter-gatherers, and the hunters have to be quiet, and the ease of which that you could communicate the subtleties of acting as a group to take something down, to feed your I don't know, tribe, say. So if you could communicate between each other that way, then that would be tremendously easy to be able to work together. Hands, sign language like the US military uses is great. And yes, it performs the same function. But is it what we're capable of? I have to use this example because it's the most adequate, that suggests that we can do it, but we've just not taught how to do it. Like, we lost the instruction manual and we are just simply exercising the ability without us kind of knowing it. And I'll give you the best example is, if there are, say, workmen in a traditional sense, workmen working on a building site, and there is an attractive lady walking past. Instead of wolf whistling, and instead of howling or making some kind of noise, rather silently looking at that lady and thinking something can induce the lady to look and turn exactly at the person who had those thoughts. You could call it getting busted looking, if that made any sense. If it makes sense to you, if it's happened to you, if you've looked at someone and not thought anything and nothing happens. If you looked at someone and thought something, do they give you? They're not even facing you when you're looking at them, but maybe they turn and look at you. I've been on a bus and driven past someone and looked at somebody outside the bus. They weren't of my interest, but I was thinking to myself, oh, what are they doing? And they looked directly at me on the bus. There's 30 people on the bus. There was traffic everywhere. There's multi-story buildings, and yet they looked directly at me. They didn't have looked anywhere else. They could have. There's a 360-degree bubble above them. Well, there'd be 180 degrees, wouldn't it? Because you're not in the ground. But having, say, that on an X and an X and Y axis, there's a circle from above and then going up into the air, sure, why not? So I tried to think about maybe where my family is if I'm at the shops. And say you're at a food court, it's maybe got 20 outlets and there's 300 seats or something, and you don't know where they're sitting. Try and think about where they are. Try and imagine the stupid thing of thinking like a sonar pulse. Where are you? And it ripples out through the crowd, and then you'll get the sense of where they are. I'm not saying that I'm skilled. Not. This is what I've spoken to people about, and this is the collective agreement upon which those discussions have gone. So, dreams. Are dreams real? What we've talked about in dreams is the place that you go to when you're dreaming, where you can meet friends of yours, is that place an actual place? Is it a place outside of this world? Meki and I have talked about this, and in our show we'll get to it, but is there a possibility that that's the actual place that we are and that we're not here at all? If this was a simulation, is that outside of the simulation where we could possibly be in our dreams? It's a really good thing to postulate. We don't have any proof of anything, of any of this, but you can only imagine what that would mean if it were true. What about the quantum mind and biocentrism? I kind of touched on that already with the mind-body problem, but the quantum mind is what we've found research papers which suggest that our, let's call it a lack of resources, but our complex abilities. So if you were to create the human brain as a one-to-one with all its connections, regardless of the cost or how big the darn thing would be, can we make something that's as good as what our brain is? I'm not talking AI. Don't care if you're thinking about that, if you're going in that direction, if you're thinking like that. No. I'm talking about how maybe how, so I'll start with this. Twins can often kind of think together. And this is in sentence structure. While they're talking, one can talk and the other one can talk along with them, or be able to fill the gap in a conversation where, one person stopped just to breathe, the other one just keeps running with it, and it's the same conversation. And they both agree that that's what they're talking about. I just wonder, what about the holographic universe? I know we're running through all these different topics, but to be honest, this is what we've been talking about for the last 700 shows. And the holographic universe is, and the electric universe for that matter, and the universe being a simulation, is really interesting. So, are we living in a simulation or not? The likelihood is that we are most likely to be in one. And as the more we discover, the more it tends to get to a 50-50 decision. Even, what's his name? Oh, never mind. So there's a scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I knew it would come to me eventually. So Neil deGrasse Tyson says, 40 years ago, he wouldn't have even given it a second thought. It's what a lot of rubbish. Yeah, the universe is not a simulation. And now he is at the point where thinking about the likelihood of us being a simulation is about 80% maximum. It's about 80%. But then when he talks to people who question whether or not we are there, we only go down to 50% possibility. So it's between 50 and 80% possibility that we are in a simulation, that none of this is real. Because of the true nature of what we've discovered now with the quantum world, the time is irrelevant. The quantum world, again, is that things pop into existence and back out of existence, kind of like the noise of like ones and zeros. Like when I was a kid, if you had the television on and it was not on a station, that snow that they call it, it's just picking up nothing, but it's populating on the screen. All of these weird black and white dots that are of random sizes that come and go. That's kind of like the quantum foam, where there's energy there, but it's coming in and out. So it's not entirely forming into something, but there's energy in the background, and that's what there is. Since we were able to, there was a guy, and I did have this news story when we did the show, and it'll be in the show notes. But I want to mention this as a top level view. There was a guy that inside of Minecraft, he made an entire working mechanical computer. It was electronic, but it's inside Minecraft as a game, using the components of redstone, which is an electrical wire, say, and comparators, which are like switches. Yep. And he was able to store information and recall information. He made a screen vastly huge. I mean, this is the size of a city big. He was able to make this thing. And it ran. And he was able to play Paddle Wars on it. So he had to store the code in it, and be able to write the code, store the code, play the code, display an output, but all with a computer made of the components that you can find inside Minecraft. It made a news story. So it was put onto the news that a man makes a simulation within a simulation. So it also supports the argument that we could be in a simulation now. And it also added to the story where we could be 9 simulations deep in a simulation. Isn't it astonishing? You think about everything around us, a piece of wood, a piece of metal, plastic, the air, doesn't matter what it is. The solid things that we describe as being solid in our science is not solid at all. If I gave you, say I had a soccer ball or a basketball, and I gave you a ping pong ball, how far away would you have to be to replicate to scale using those items a hydrogen atom? And I think it's something crazy like 23 miles away. Isn't that just nuts? A hydrogen atom having that little of nothing in it. It's only those two things, but they're so far apart from each other that it's. Look, I'm wrong. I know that the amount of miles is wrong, but it's not 1 mile. It's not 20 feet. It's like it could be 10 miles, 17 miles, whatever it is. But it's vast. So if you think about the area or the volume, let's call it volume, the volume of the position of that electron around the hydrogen nucleus as an atom, then that's a lot of nothing in that space. So you think about how that's a gas, could be a liquid, doesn't matter. It's only how far apart they are from each other. the wooden surface on your desk is made from material that has atoms with lots of space in between, and yet their connection with each other is so strong that you can't put your finger through it. They appear to our definition as the word solid. But like a file, like an Excel file, that then you want to compress into something small enough to send to somebody, the spaces are removed. Any duplicates are removed and with a reference to a single space. So there isn't all of that file size as being unoccupied cells in the spreadsheet, if you know what I'm saying. That when you come down, it's only a few characters. It's really not much at all of what is there. So a black hole, for instance, does the same thing. All of the empty space is now removed. It's like a zipped up, using the computer term to zip, to compress, it's like a zipped up form of everything. In fact, it would be non-transparent and everything else would be transparent if you were the size of an atom and if you were looking at anything else in space. If you were the size of an atom, it wouldn't be solid. You'd only see all the gaps if you were that size. So because we're so large, we don't see any of those gaps and we can't penetrate through them because the gaps are too small for us to get through. Even the fringe of our cells can't go, our atoms can't go through those other atoms. So this is the thing. When I came up with that idea for myself, but it's like living in a world full of people who've invented the wheel, but you've never met them, and you invent the wheel yourself too. So yes, you're an inventor. Yes, you invented the wheel, but were you the first? Does it matter if you didn't see the others? No, you were the first in your area to do it. If then a vehicle goes past you, maybe you're living in the wrong time, and time is relevant. We don't forget that. So this is the thing I think is funny. So I came up with this idea about the transparent universe by applying that logic. Myself didn't even know anyone else had even had it as a thing, and then I submitted that to my physics professor and said, "Oh, have you contemplated this idea?" And he goes, "Just Google it. It's already been a thing." I said, "Oh, really?" And he goes, "Yeah, it really is a thing." I said, "But I came up with it." He goes, "Good for you. Find something else to work on." And so then I did, and I came up with a great idea, and which was that light itself diminishes in wavelength over time and is not it's not persistent. And so my idea is, and it's now supported by an equation that another guy has done, I didn't communicate with him, he's just come up on his own and said this, that he's found that light deteriorates over time, but it deteriorates in the form of lengthening the wavelength. And so, yeah, cool, that makes sense to me. And so when we look out at the universe, my problem was that in the definition of the universe always expanding, and when I did relativity and second relativity, I discovered that the Doppler effect, and the only reason we came up with the idea of the ever expanding, ever speeding, accelerating expansion of the universe was simply because we're using the term Doppler and applying that to what we see as redshift of the light coming towards us from these distant objects. The more distant, the faster the redshift, or the more redshift. So we're assuming to apply the Doppler effect to light in order then for us to make the determination that the further it is, the faster it's moving away from us. But that's great. Good for you, whoever thought that up, that whole idea. Because then they had to try and make up an excuse for it expanding. And there you've got the Big Bang Theory. it blew up, but now it's traveling even faster away from itself on the extremities of this explosion, which doesn't make any sense. So then they went, oh, we've got dark energy in there. That helps. That helps make that idea work. But the idea is a wet sock. It was a wet sock to begin with. It's a wet sock now. If you have to keep adding things to make it work, then it's not real. It's not real. So my idea is quite simple. It is that light deteriorates over time, and what we're seeing is not the Doppler shift itself, it's just older light. So if you were to look out into the universe and see what it is you can see with visible light only, you can't see very far. You can't even see across our galaxy. The bubble is so small of visible light. What we need to do then is start looking in infrared light, because that's the deterioration path of visible light on the EM spectrum. And I'm actually going to put that up for the first time in this show. I know I've got a slide for it. Hang on a minute. And then I'll get back onto it again. EM spectrum. There we go. So, oddly enough, outside of the visible light, the next thing, as light would slow down, it would start redshifting and go into infrared light. Well, we've got infrared telescopes now that can see further than the visible light, because visible light only gives us a certain viewing distance. Infrared takes us further, and then once we get past that, we have what was known as the microwave background radiation. And when you go further past that, you're into radar or radio waves. Isn't that crazy? Well, it happens to match precisely the same things. So if you, on what's on screen, if you go from the left where visible light is and you travel towards the left, none of that stuff will hurt you, actually, except for microwaves. They'll boil you, but they don't destroy your DNA. Everything above visible light destroys your DNA, believe it or not. So ultraviolet, bad for your DNA. X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays, all bad. All the short wavelengths are bad. So let's just concentrate on this. So you're looking out into space, and your visible light can only go so far. Outside of that, you go to infrared light, and you want to look further back in time, in the galaxy, or in the universe. You now have to start going into microwaves, and then if you change the frequency on your receptor, your receiver, you can go into radio waves, and you can see much further. I hope that kind of lends some, let's mind the pun, light on the subject. And that's why I came up with it, because it's only one idea. You don't have to add dark energy or dark matter into it. You don't have to have a preposterous statement that says everything that's further away from us is moving farther away faster, and everything close to us is moving slower. Like, it's an ever-expanding galaxy into what? Oh, into nothing. It's not expanding into anything. There's nothing there. So how can it expand? Well, it's expanding. You see, you end up just talking to an AI at this point. No one has any knowledge around it. My one tends to make a lot more sense, that everything turns into a black hole, which eventually pops. That's what it does. It doesn't just go dark. There's an ultimate size to how big a black hole can be before it, let's say, maybe it pops like popcorn and then releases everything again. I don't know. No one knows. Where all of these are theories, and mine is a theory, but I think it's the most accurate theory that describes it in the simplest way. Wow. And that took us to the end of the show. Believe it or not. Where did I get to? I got to there. Wow. So I made it half a page. Half a page of 99 pages. I'm absolutely sure that this is going to now take us all the way through to show 800. If we keep on this trajectory. So I don't think we're... Yeah, we're 3 pages in. And this is the 3rd show. Oh, my goodness. But look, I know Meki's not been with us. He will be with us this week for Plato's Cave, and we'll see you again for Shiny Side Out, the original show, Shiny Side Out with Dave and Meki on Revolution Radio. And as we will always do, we implore you to be safe so that you can listen to us again and survive whatever's going on in the world. Use your patience and your due diligence. Research. We'll catch you again. Take care, everyone.